Does everyone hear me? Yeah? Good? Okay. So in this session, what I will try to do is to show you how JIRA with GreenHopper will help you in your Agile project management. So in the menu, I'm going to take a few seconds to talk about me, to introduce myself. In a few words, I will try to do a picture for you of what is GreenHopper. Of course, I will do mostly, the rest will be a demonstration on GreenHopper. Then I will pass the hand to Jim Morrison, who's VP at Atlassian.com, who's going to talk about a few seconds about Atlassian.com. He's going to talk about the project management game changer. And of course, he's going to show before and after the introduction of GreenHopper in the process, in his Agile project management. And we'll have some time, I hope, for questions and answers. So, to introduce myself, I'm Jean-Christophe Huet. This is why I'm JC, because Jean-Christophe is just not an international name. So you can call me JC. I'm an actuary with a master in computer science. I have joined Pixies Technologies, who helped me build GreenHopper in 2005. I did the link hierarchy plugin in 2007, which was the CodeGeist winner of the 2007. I don't know if you saw the plugin. It's an amazing plugin. It was my first experience with Ajax. Then I devoted the 2 last years on GreenHopper. And my implication in GreenHopper is basically I'm half a PO, product owner, with François Borgard, which is the CEO of Pixies Technology. I was a Scrum Master and the lead developer. So I had like 3 hats on my head. It was quite a challenge. And today is my second day as an Atlassian employee. And again, I hope it will not be the last one after them seeing this presentation. So, what is GreenHopper? Well, besides being the latest baby of Atlassian, GreenHopper is mainly another UI for JIRA, and it has 2 goals. First, to provide user with an interactive and simple interface. The second one will be to increase the visibility and the traceability of your JIRA projects, the ongoing versions. Today in this session, we're going to see how we can apply GreenHopper in an Agile project environment. I put some numbers here on GreenHopper. It was born in 2007. We have today about 1,000 and more clients. And we have done 30 releases in 18 months. That means we have a release rate, less microphone. We have a release rate about 2 to 3 weeks in your release. So in our case, a sprint is shipped to the client, so it's a release. So GreenHopper. The thing to understand about GreenHopper is that it will provide you with 3 main boards. We have the planning board, the task board, and the chart board. In the planning board, this is where you'll be able to do your multi-level planning, which is the backlog maintenance. You'll be able to prioritize your issues, estimate your issues, do your release planning, and do your sprint planning. The task board will be the board that will be able to provide you with, to help you track your ongoing work. So you'll be able to track your sprint progress, your release progress, your story progress. You'll be able to log work directly from the board. And of course, you can configure the board. It comes with 3 columns, but you can add your own columns to fit your needs. And the last board is the chart board. It will give you the visibility and the metrics of your project. So we'll just provide you with a bunch of charts, like the hour burn down chart, the issue burn down chart. And if you're playing with story points, you'll have the velocity charts, the burn down charts of your velocity points. And if you're playing with business value, you'll have the burnout charts. So I'm just going to switch to a small demo. There you go. So this is the planning board. This is the main board of GreenHopper. This is where you'll be able to actually do your backlog maintenance, do your plannings, and your teams will be able to commit themselves on certain amount of stories in the sprints. So there's 3 ways of seeing your issues inside GreenHopper. The first one will be the small cards. We call them the summary cards. So basically, you have the most important information on these cards. On double-clicking on the cards, you'll have what we call the detail card. So you have more fields. Of course, this is driven by a template that you can customize. And you can directly from the card edit some fields. So for instance here, if you say this one is actually 5 story points, you just update it right in the board. And the last view for your issues will be the list, the plain old list. This is actually the last view that we have introduced in GreenHopper, and I don't know why it's the most used. And what was the selling point of GreenHopper was the cards, the index card, but no one uses it. So figure it out. So in your backlog maintenance, this is in your right column of your planning board, you'll have all your unreleased fixed versions. This is where you have your releases, your sprints, and the end schedule, which is the to-do backlog. So for instance, if you do backlog maintenance, you can actually add your own stories. Sorry, I don't want to take some time for that. And estimate your story points directly here. You can prioritize your issues. So simply select the issues that you want to bring up. There you go. And select them at the top. So this is how GreenHopper will help you in your backlog maintenance. You'll be able to create issues, update issues, and prioritize your issues. Then after you're doing your release plannings. In the release planning, you select a couple of, let's say you want to take all of them, and you simply slide them in your release box. There you go. So now you have your release. So based on your velocity, you'll break this release. Of course, you have in the box, in the release box, you have your statistics. So for instance, here I have 16 points. Based on that and based on your velocity, you'll be able to break down your release into multiple sprints. I'll do it quickly. So here from the managed link, we'll jump to fixed version.
Sorry. Sort of learn new things by watching him.
So we'll add my first sprint, add it. So as soon as I go back to my GreenHopper, I will have the sprint. And what you can do in GreenHopper is you can actually nest your versions into other versions with a master-slave relationship. So here I'm going to link my release, my sprint to my release. And when you do sprint planning, you'll be able to select some of the issues your team is committing on and simply slide them inside the sprint. So here, because I'm in the release, I can track what's going on in my release, so I still see the same issues in my release, but I have a pending link, which will give me all the issues that are still in the release, but not committed yet into a child, which is a sprint. So if I look here, this is what the team has not yet committed on in the release. So here I have my sprint. So in the sprint planning, what you will do is that you will actually break these stories into multiple subtasks, technical tasks. So here I'm just going to create one, and you're going to estimate them, of course, in hours, 15 hours. This one, I'm just going to create another one. Some gravy. There you go. 25 hours. There you go. So here I have my sprint, which has 4 points and 48 hours of work to do as a workload. So this will be the planning board. And of course, we have some filters that will help you filter the issues that you see on the board. So for instance here, if you're prioritizing and you don't want to see the subtask, you can create your own your own context, which will hide the subtask, so you're not losing the focus because of the subtask. And here this is, you can use the context, how to use the context. And there you go. Okay, so this is the planning board. The next board is, whoops. The next board is the task board. So it's a pretty simple board, and I'm sure you guys already saw it. It's trying to mimic the cup So this is actually where you will be able to track your ongoing sprints, and this is where most of your teammates will be working on. So for instance, if a user starts working on a bug, simply slides it into the in progress column, and of course you can map all your workflows, your statuses inside these columns. You can add columns. Again, it's all customizable. And from here, of course, you can log your time. So for instance here, I can say I have spent 2 hours. And the most important thing is to re-estimate. And you can say I have 5 hours left to do. You can add a comment. And of course, when you're done, simply slide it to the column. Because I have mapped my column to 2 statuses, it's asking me which one I want to transitate. There you go. So now my issue is my bug is done. So this is how you'll be able to track your sprint. And of course, you can create a filter. For instance, here, I'll show it to you on a bigger project, so you can see a little bit more issues. There you go. So this is actually the task board of GreenHopper. So here, I'm seeing all the issues, so I'm seeing all the progress of GreenHopper in that sprint. So I have, here I have, actually I'm tracking the story progress, because I have 2 modes on my task board. I have the compact view, which is simply the 3 columns, and I have the outline view. I jumped in that. There you go. This is the board we were looking at. So this is just plain 3 columns, and you have all the issues. This is nice if you just want to track your story, your feature progress, so you can see where your features are, using the context again. And if you want to see the progression of your stories, you simply jump into the outline, and there you go. So every story is broken down into a small task board, and you can actually see the progress of all the subtasks for each stories. And of course, here you can slide down your subtask and put it to resolve. So this is a task board. This is quite simple. Then you have the chart board. You can stick with the GreenHopper project. So the chart board, you have access to the hour burnout chart, which is simply showing you the, here is the green line. So it's the remaining hours that you still have in your sprint. So you can see the progress of your team. The blue line is not really agile, but this is a time span. This is actually the team effort. We like to enter it because we use more the yellow one. And the yellow one is actually the difference between the green line and the blue line, which is showing us how we're doing in the estimations. So if we, for instance, if we have an issue that has originally estimated for 3 hours and we work 4 hours on it, that means we have underestimated the issue for 1 hour. So the yellow curve will go up by 1. So it could explain why the sprint is not going well or why it's going too well. And we have the forecast. The forecast is simply the dotted lines. So based on what you did in the past, this is where you're aiming to. So it can show you if you're on track or if you're going to need some more efforts. And from that, you will have the burn-down chart. So this is based on any metric that you add. So for instance, here in this project, we have added the story points. So we're tracking the story points. So every time a story ends in the last column of the task board, it will be considered as burnt. So the burn down chart will burn the story points of that story. So you can see, and And the good thing is to see some like steps and not seeing a flat line and then a waterfall. And just to show you, you can have a project-wide graphic based on, again, your metrics. For instance, here, this is all the releases that we have done in GreenHopper. And we have a backlog for about 333 points. And this is how the project is going right now. And of course, you have access to the velocity chart, which shows you how many points we have burned for every releases. And you can actually target your average velocity and apply it to your sprint plannings when you do your sprint plannings. There you go. That was a really quick tour of GreenHopper. Of course, everything you do in JIRA will be reflected in GreenHopper. So the permission schemes, notification schemes, the screen flow schemes, everything will be reflected in GreenHopper. There you go. Jim?
Sure. All right. So I want to thank JC for helping my company stick with JIRA. I don't know how many people have installed JIRA and tried to get it to go around their company, and you feel the wave of acceptance, and then the wave sort of washes out. And putting in GreenHopper was the sort of the linchpin for my COO, because it got rid of the clunkiness and it allowed him to get the transparency into the development cycle he wanted. So thank you. I call it a game changer. I was sort of talking to somebody at some event a couple months ago, and that's how I sort of got into the speaking thing. And little did I know, I was the last person to find out that they'd actually bought it, so that was really great, which means it'll be around and developed forever. So how many people here used Excel or something like that before they used JIRA? Yeah, so do you remember that feeling you got when you moved from Excel to JIRA? It was sort of off your computer, didn't have to send it out every time you changed it or upload it to some wiki or somewhere, and it was transparent, and you could do all those types of things. When you put in GreenHopper now, I guess how many people here use GreenHopper now? Okay, awesome. So you know what I'm talking about. So you get that feeling when you move from JIRA to GreenHopper. It's that same feeling. It's a totally different type of interface, and it's something I think that's just sort of a no-brainer. And it's amazing, I think, in the new kind of web era that like one guy or more can take a whole product and just transform it. So, I'm sort of the VP General Manager of Bazillions.com. We are a product reviews website. So the parent company is called Power Reviews, and you can basically read product reviews about everything on Bazillions.com, and however you spell it, you'll get there. We bought all the variations. We use, my team uses it quite extensively. I put the avatars of my team up there. They're not all there because they didn't want to send them to me. I should have just screenshotted them. But if you want your own South Park avatar, just go to this little address at the bottom. And I'll put my slides on our blog. But that's me in the upper left, and sort of various product managers. I have one product manager on my team who's sort of a professional product manager. Then I have everybody else on my team run smaller projects. So one of the things I want to say about when I installed GreenHopper, my product manager didn't even know she was using a different product. She just knew it was part of the setup. So it's actually quite seamless. And the things that JC was showing, those are new to me. I actually upgraded yesterday. We upgraded. We just replaced the jar. It took 5 minutes while everybody was at lunch. So the maintenance is pretty easy. Thank you. So we have about 7 projects in JIRA. We run Bazillions, the website is one of the projects. all the data problems on Bazillions are run by our operations team. So we have 3 versions of a camera that get merged into one, bad images, bad data, that kind of thing. So, and then the Power Review side of the business, we provide a service to retailers. So the ideation happens in Google Docs. It's just very simple to kind of create good ideas and get rid of bad ideas. We go into meetings and we sort of move the lines around, and they're just kind of ideas at that point. JIRA is probably a little bit too heavy to just create little lines of text and prioritize them. So once we approve the ideas, they go into JIRA. Sometimes they go in advance to kind of build it up, maybe send it to the designer. And then we have a wiki called Twinkie, and that's generally where we put docs, any kind of notes about projects in general. So, although most of the stuff gets in the JIRA task for the most part. So we release every month, generally the second Wednesday. We average about 106 issues in JIRA per cycle. I did the average for the past 4 or 5 months. So, and as Stephen Colbert is pointing out, about 98% of all work goes into our JIRA system. So there's very little sort of walkover and pressure the engineer to push through some little project. So there's been it's been a wave of acceptance, and it's finally kind of crashed on the beach. So very happy about how everybody uses the system. And when it comes launch night, we just know what to test. It's all in the system. I've sort of born and raised in software in the Valley here, so my reality is slightly warped. It's very fast and it's a little loose, but we try to put as much process in as is appropriate. So we use IntelliJ, we use JIRA, we use TeamCity. We push to a staging server every hour on the 40th minute, so every 40th minute our server breaks, but at least we're getting the newest code. We have 4 modules and a core library that the whole company uses. We use Subversion, Maven 2. We provision servers with Puppet, which is a tool I highly recommend. You take a blank server, throw software on it, and then Capistrano is what we use for actually releasing the builds. So Capistrano is kind of, they say it's like peanut butter and chocolate, Puppet and Capistrano. So you use Ruby scripts to push out to your servers. And then we also, one of the things the engineers really like, they have an in-house IRC behind the firewall. So the IRC chat room has little modules, so whenever the build happens, or whenever check-in happens, those messages are posted to the IRC chat wall. In fact, they're also sent in emails. So when we talk about code reviews, everybody gets shamed if they check in and they haven't put in reviewed by Jim, reviewed by whoever. So we don't have a system for code review, but it does happen. And when someone does a check-in without that little annotation, we track them down. So I think Agile's like Web 2.0. Everybody has their own definition of it. We certainly do. I've never taken a class on it, but a lot of the really great things are the daily stand-ups, the short cycles. We always team the business owners with the engineers. See a little Linux graphic? I'm telling you, you really got to make these. And it works great because everybody's talking and the engineers get to feel a part of the process. So when they have a good idea, they know who to talk to. They're there as sort of like a two-way conduit, and when you want to push stuff out fast and you get some sophistication, like one engineer knows how to change the ad tags on the site, they just kind of work it out. So it's a really great part of the process to have the tech teams and the business teams really talking. And the business people on my side who aren't necessarily product managers get to learn a lot of the skills that are great for their careers. So the other thing we do is we have a Selenium grid server. So we hit a bunch of laptops, throw a bunch of sort of Selenium tests at it. We test all the A-list browsers on the different operating systems for Bazillions. So being a website's a real pain in the butt with IE6, IE7, IE8. We don't test my favorite Chrome, but someday. We also have an iPhone app, so we have to do some sort of testing and support a little bit of a different infrastructure than Java. So first thing that GreenHopper did was I could get organized. So the planning board cards are what JC showed, and they just allow you to visually see things with a little bit more description than you get in your normal JIRA listing. So the The planning cards are sort of your first step at the beginning of the cycle, is to get them organized, make sure they're in the right place. We don't use subtasks, we don't use sprints, although I do sometimes launch things in between launches. If that makes any sense. How many people here use email integration with JIRA? All right, yeah, that's the best. So my boss no longer emails me tasks to put into the system. He just emails them into the system. How many people here use the CC to assign the person directly? All right, so if you CC the email to like a person sort of known in the system, it just assigns it to them, which is a great trick. If you want to get past the sort of gatekeeper, who's my product manager, until I found out that she has a notification on any task creation. I always wondered how she was asking me follow-up questions about tasks that I'd emailed through the system and assigned directly to an engineer. It wasn't that she was refreshing the screen. So it's a very flexible system, and just like the JIRA people said, that they opened the API so much that they didn't really know what people would do with it. There's so many uses that I was learning, something right here in JC's presentation. So my product manager was following me. I didn't even know it. So the next great thing is in the middle of the cycle. So you can imagine that things are going slower, things are going faster. You've got to reassign engineers. You've got to reprioritize. In the old JIRA, you're literally going into each task. You're trying to remember, OK, is this going to be number 2? And this is going to be number 4. You also have the problem of I renamed the priorities in JIRA. I renamed them in the beginning to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and ABC. But the problem is you get 1A, 1B, 1C. Your business users, your stakeholders can never make up their minds, and they want everything to be number 1. So an engineer has a list, and there's like 4 number 1s. And they're sort of asking me, what do I work on? So you have this kind of roundabout thing where you're going to all stakeholders and negotiating. Well, what they've done, and JC didn't mention this, so luckily I had to mention something, is that when you install GreenHopper, everything gets a discrete rank. So the rank is the greatest thing on earth, and it basically allows anybody in the system to know exactly what to work on at any time. And so it's really kind of obviated the priority system I put in. And the drag and drop, as he showed, is pretty awesome. You just grab this task and you move it up, and grab another task and move it down. And these are my cute little graphics. You can make your own priority graphics. N stands for new. That way everything goes in the system. It doesn't get auto-prioritized. You can tell we don't use story points very often. And some of these things are still not even assigned. We've got 8 days left, though. That's plenty of time. Now these screenshots are from 2 days ago. OK, so one of the things, how many people here auto-add tasks to JIRA? Through like Jelly or not through email. I highly recommend it. So we process hundreds of product feeds every day. So we work with about 400 retailers who provide information to bazillions. Price, in stock, things like that. So when they break, it's really frustrating. Nobody wants to see a price on bazillions, click through to REI, Staples, Toys R Us, and have a different price. Huge complaint. So the feed system, when it breaks, it basically sends a task into this system, and someone in the operations team gets assigned that task. For some reason, I'm the reporter, so whenever she resolves the task or comments on it, I get the notifications. So I know when the Rowing Superstore Plus has, had a feed failure. But in general, the auto task creation is one of the greatest things that we've used. OK, so again, what are you going to do when you need to change things quickly because your boss said that thing in the bottom's got to be done fast and this engineer got sick? So you do this in-place editing, which is just great. You basically press this little button with you can press a single person button if you want to do it yourself, but I don't do that. You press this button, you get this great pull down. I don't know how the people at Polycom do it with 4,000 people, but we don't have that many, so you just sort of scroll down and you get frustrated. There are 2 Laurens in the company. That's about it. 2 Jeffreys.
We should try the EQ again in a second here, huh?
What?
Let's actually just, OK, so we got this. This is happening too. Good. All right.
Nice. It's better than a baby monitor. All right. Whew.
Hopefully I'm not
I'm glad you heard that too. OK.
Okay, so should we do anything to the speaker before I do this? That's going to make a pop.
Okay, it's not you. Okay. All right, so basically, GreenHopper amounts to more acceptance, it amounts to more time savings, less hassle, and it really kind of, if you think that Web 2.0 is about social, for me, a lot of the Web 2.0 is just the Ajax technology, the in-place editing, the modal windows instead of going to an entire new web page. These are the things that GreenHopper's brought to JIRA that's just jumping it in terms of usability over every other product out there. So,
doesn't it? No, it doesn't.
Although I haven't checked the other products out there. Maybe God has.
Really be saying that. Would you? Would you? Would you? Would you? Would you? Would you?
This is going to get good. It's going to get better and better. Okay. All right. So you get towards the end of the cycle. You might think that's kind of now, but really today's only Tuesday, so we're not really panicking. Code freeze is Friday night, which really means Monday morning.
Louder? That's a little louder. That's the bypass.
Okay, so what you see is grayed out tasks. Before in JIRA, anybody get frustrated with that little icon that's the check mark icon versus the other icon that's not a check mark that's either resolved or closed? So in the regular JIRA interface, it's actually impossible to tell unless you've got really good eyes which tasks are resolved and which ones are closed because they both say fixed. Don't ask me, but this interface makes it very clear that this task is resolved but not closed. We only close the tasks on launch night when we've done final website verification. So task goes gray, business owner does preliminary testing, and then we know, my product manager and I kind of watch all the tasks to make sure they get eventually turned gray. The other way to do it is, like he showed you the task board. Does anybody have a team that uses in progress? Oh my God. That's great. So that's one of the things that we don't have. We have one engineer who's really good, uses the in progress. So I got rid of it. It just made resolve the middle column and close the far column. And that actually, this will help us. This sort of helps us on launch night because the task will sort of move through to the closed area, and then task will actually move backwards, of course. And the other thing that I really like is how do you manage all the product managers? How do you manage all the tasks in the system? Before, you had some sort of roadmap and change log, and you could look at that through versions and components. But I like to pivot. And this is the old interface, so I didn't update this screenshot. So JC's probably cringing. So we have releases every month. So 5A was last month, 6A is June, 7A is July. Sometimes there's a B. Q3 on deck. And then you've got the projects. So we have a whole tool that we have our retailers log into to manage things, do moderation, to manage various aspects. We use it internally. So dashboards and tools, major integration services, IT, bazillions data. We've actually had quite a good adoption of the system. And development actually is a place where the engineers create JIRA tasks. And to me, I feel like when an engineer creates a JIRA task, there should like a little bell should go off, or like an angel should be born or something. I mean, they hate these things, and the fact that they make them is crazy. And then, of course, versions and components. I do a lot of components with my team. All my business owners own a specific piece of bazillions, and they're responsible for prioritizing their queues. So I can see all those queues. So just basics about our install. These are, if you're really interested, you can look on you can get the deck from the blog. And then I'll put it up this afternoon. Ken wanted me to remind you to do the survey. And then I had a couple, I'll show one live thing, and then I want to have one JIRA suggestion, which is to have more debugging around the email interface. I checked today, and ours is broken, and there's just no way to figure out what's going on. So here is our issue chart. You'll probably be pretty shocked about how little is resolved, but generally the engineers just don't really update it. So of course, our issues are trending up as the cycle goes, as we add things. So we'll get there. It's today. I guess we're not too far. So I could go through the interface, but he kind of already did, so any questions?
Can you turn GreenHopper on for certain projects inside of your instance, or is it for the whole system automatically?
No, it's you can actually select the projects that you want to grant access to GreenHopper. So it's on a project base. It will not go lower than that.
I had heard of a Scrum concept, something with cards for lots of team members to estimate how long a certain task is going to take in a very quick way to make executive. Is that something that GreenHopper manages?
Well, with the cards, you mean?
He asked about the process when a bunch of engineers, we get like a deck of cards, we sit around a table, and we sort of like we go 1, 2, 3, throw the cards down, and I say 1, and the engineer says 5, and
Playing poker?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the playing poker, the problem with playing poker is that Mike Cohn has a trademark on it. So normally, without his authorization, you cannot reuse the software playing poker, or whatever is doing the same thing. So for now, there's a trademark on it.
I mean a process patent.
Yeah, well, the playing poker thing, the whole playing poker, like having a deck of cards with numbers and things like that, is a trademark of Mountain Goat. So normally, no software, no commercial
Is that
software.
going to interfere with my poker game? I put cards down, I get money.
No, if it's on commercial base, you can have problems. But if it's not, I think personal use, there's no problem.
Interesting.
So yeah, you have to be careful with that.
Sounds like a plugin.
But we're pretty close to Mike Cohn, and so we're talking about something somewhat to manage that. But that's again, it's not.
I've got 8. So it includes two front end, or 8 plus 2 front end engineers. Front end engineers being kind of CSS, HTML, JavaScript, Ajax gurus.
So when you're planning the sprint, how do you work at the developer load? How much work the developer is kind of allocated? Do you use a story point? You're saying you don't use story points. So you connect it with story point to effort as well.
So the question was just how do we figure out the developer days and load, and how do we assign the projects and figure out. So of the 62 tasks you see right now, only about 10 of them were named in some meeting. The rest of them are small enough to be bug fixes and sort of assigned kind of outside the system. And you see 62 tasks here. There's two other main projects that will have 40 to 50 tasks as well. So the whole team is doing way more than 100 issues every cycle. What we do is we have, like I said, these Google Docs, and we update one Google Doc with bazillions priorities, we power views priorities, and there's a couple other buckets. And we take the engineers and we normalize the times. So certain engineers are busy with everyday work that they can't get out of. And so they don't get the full 13 days in the cycle. Our cycle has built-in QA days and built-in design day. QA at the end, design at the beginning. So we take the working days, we take off days for vacation, so we do the vacation in advance, and we have a bucket, and it's assigned by percentages by the management team. So my team gets a certain percentage of time, other teams the other major business units get their percentages, and then we estimate tasks in advance. So if you're in a meeting and someone asks the lead engineers who are in the meeting to estimate time, that's when we sort of start throwing eggs and water balloons and harassing and dumping our coffee on top of people who are wasting our time in meetings. So you come to the meeting with everything sort of pointed out, story pointed out for the most part. Everything we do is by days.
So you don't use GreenHopper or JIRA?
No. So that's where we do the Google spreadsheet for now. It's definitely tempting. It's getting much easier to create tasks. I mean, I literally just installed the latest version of what he just showed you, where you click on it and the modal comes up and you can create tasks. With that kind of interface, I feel like I can start throwing stuff in. There is. This is an issue burn down chart. So this is, I actually didn't Didn't know this existed. I wanted it. It was on my list. I don't know if it was it was in the one before.
Issue breakdown chart?
Yeah,
Uh,
must have been. Okay, so in any case, this is the what I would call the poor man's Agile. Just the issues. You know, tell me where we are in the issues. Enough of the tasks don't have the hours to do it through the normal ways. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I had a question on GreenHopper. I mean, is it possible to customize the terminology used? I mean, for an organization that maybe not be as agile, but still needs project management, more project management tooling. So, for example, the story points and user stories, is it possible to translate that to something?
The story points is actually custom fields. So you can create your own custom field and label it as like you want. So we have, in our case, we have created this custom field, a number called story points, but you can use whatever label you want.
So we don't use time tracking. So story point is just a day. So everything seems, so in that sense, you can kind of add them all up. So you can kind of make it your own thing.
It shouldn't be GreenHopper is trying to reach most of the people, most of the users. So there's no related specific words for Agile. Everything you'll add to JIRA will be specific to your own project management style. So if you deal with releases, you'll name your fixed versions as releases and sprint or iterations. But if you're playing with versions, you can directly put version 1, version 2, version 3. Same thing with the custom fields.
Are there some things that you should add though? Is it recommended in the documentation in order to get all of the features like the story points, time estimation?
Yeah, we have a quick start in the documentation. We have a quick start. There's only 3 things that we add. There's only 3 main features that we add that is not built in JIRA, which is a ranking field. So you have like a step how to insert your ranking field. You have how to nest your versions, like with the master-slave relation. And there is a third one. What was it?
You create a custom field called story point, and you identify that field as the story point field.
Yeah. Well, you can add it to statistics in the box. So you can create your own number, your own custom field, number, add it in your box. Statistics. That will be shown in the quick start in the documentation.
We spend like a day every 3 months doing JIRA administration. So same with GreenHopper, it's pretty easy. It does, when you first turn it on to a project, it is a little bit slow to calculate all the ranks. At least it was, a little bit faster. Any other questions? Cool. Thank you to JIRA, thank you to GreenHopper for making my life easier.
Summit, or I have recorded versions here. Just raise your hand.